Good morning. It's Monday. You know what that means. We have Dr. Roman Nation and Scarlett here from Nation's Best. Thanks for coming back in again. We always have the best interviews before we actually start rolling tape. But I understand Scarlett may have some tips for kids. For summer fun? Okay, what are some of the things you've learned over the summer? And what are some tips you can give the kids?
Well, one of the things, since I'm only here for the summer, is that you need to get good use of your time. Because if you like waste your time doing other things besides using it to where you have it, then it'll just fly away, and then
you never get that time back.
The summer went by really quick.
Summer does fly by. But you managed to get a lot in this summer, didn't you?
Yeah, we did.
You guys had a lot of fun this summer. I know you went diving, right? What else did you do?
I got dive certified. I went to Key West, southernmost point. I've
actually been there. I know that thing. That big buoy-looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yeah.
at the,
90 miles to Cuba.
Next stop, Cuba. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I am almost to my goal, and I hope I'll get this by Friday.
She had a money goal set for the summer, so she's almost there.
So
she wants a
I'm
puppy.
almost to my $1,000 goal.
Wow, that's big money for somebody your age, and you do that from working. And I know you had a little business where you were making bracelets and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that didn't really take off as I planned. So.
Yeah, sort of like this TV show. But you got to keep on trying, right? Okay.
It takes time.
It does take time. And Doc, is that something that you taught young Scarlett about use of your time, proper use of your time?
She wanted to come help out in the office, and not as a full employment position, but to do something over her summer other than spend it at a school or something like that.
Yeah.
So we challenged her to.
So it's not all books.
No.
There's some
we challenged her to
practical
provide some
life lessons you can learn over a vacation
on how to make use of your time and how to get along with the other team members and utilize that. You've got time on your hands, so make use of it. She's been a great help with the customers in the waiting room and going out and making sure they're all comfortable. And sometimes in the middle of the day the wait gets longer, so she's always out there.
She's sort of like the hostess at
your
dad's office.
She was a very good hostess over the summer. So she did it last year, and she did an even better job this year. So
Last year was kind of like, it was nothing like this year because I was there on the first day that we opened the new practice, and there was it took an hour for the first patient to get into the new office because of the new location.
Well, anything new, you're going to have those little growing pains.
Yep.
Yeah, and then now in the morning there's 5 to 6 that's already here.
They're all scratching at the door, ready to get in.
Yeah, it's in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's the way businesses work sometimes.
And now summer's almost gone, so it's almost back to school. She's excited about school. She likes a teacher for next year.
Yeah.
We already know who that is going to be, and he's a good guy. I like him too. So.
Well, good. So what's your favorite subject now?
Math.
Math. All right.
She's really strong in math.
All right, and I guess she gets that from you, huh?
I think she gets some of the money part of it, the business part of it. She can do all that stuff in her head.
Oh, that's awesome.
I like to make tips at Waffle House.
She likes to make the change. And
I see. So you figure the tip at Waffle House for Dad and all that. All right. Well, that's actually a good life lesson too, Doc. Keeping your children, constructively engaged over the summer. It's a lot different than when, say, I was a kid. When it was okay, come home before the street lights come on, and that was it. I go out and I ride my bike all day long. My parents had no idea where I was,
Yeah, nobody stays home. I mean, in our entire neighborhood, none of the kids are home at all there.
Everybody's got some programmed activity going on.
They'll get dropped off somewhere where there's adult supervision. So things have dramatically changed since we were kids.
I know,
for sure.
In the Arias household back in the '60s and '70s, it was like Lord of the Flies. We were out there swinging from ropes and
Yep. When I was
wild boar.
Yeah.
No, not really.
When I was little, I worked with my dad. We did construction work.
Yeah.
And laying blocks and stuff like that. And I was real little when we started, but it provides you a trade and it gives you something to work towards.
Well, we had chores too growing up.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing too.
Yep.
I mean, kids need to know that.
There's a lot of skill sets that she's picking up. Some of them the hard way, some of them are coming easier than others. So.
Well, you start these habits young.
Yep.
Most of them come harder.
Well, kids are hardwired to have fun.
The uncomfortable ones come.
You got to
harder,
have fun too. You got to have some downtime.
Oh, we had plenty of downtime. We went to Legoland. That was brother's big reward for working on his sight words all summers because he's starting first grade.
Okay.
So that was a little trip over there, and then my parents came to town, and so we took my dad surfing. So even Scarlett went surfing. So that was.
I saw my
That's
grandpa stand up on a surfboard.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Grandpa's a pretty spry fellow. Huh? Wow.
Yeah.
Not too
Yeah,
bad.
He gave it a shot, and he enjoyed it. So.
Well, got to run off to a break, but on the other side of our local weather, I want to talk to you more about your practice and how that's coming along. What makes Nation's Best different from everybody else? And we'll be right back after your local weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm. westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Roman Nation and Scarlett, and we're talking about Nation's Best family health care.
Yes, sir.
Now, you're up there on 77 in Lynn Haven, and you've had your practice is still relatively new, isn't it?
Well, we've been in that facility a little over a year now, but it's grown pretty rapidly, and we've got a lot of patients that come from the beach, so we're scouting a second facility out there to accommodate those folks.
So you'll be out on the beach soon, too.
Yeah, it'll be we split time from one place to the other one.
Okay, in that way you can actually better serve, the whole Panama City area. Now, what makes your practice different than others? I know you have JT, you have a nutritionist on board, and you've got a whole great staff of nurse practitioner and a PA there and some other folks.
Jim Dees is my PA, and then Stephanie Breland, she's been with us for a couple of years now. She's a nurse practitioner. And all these people I've kind of handpicked over time to kind of fit. I mean, our practice is very much focused on wellness and well-being. So we have a lot of what I would call 7-Eleven medicine or turnstile medicine. That's what the newest catchphrase in medical care is urgent care. It's like you come in, you just say what you want, and then you walk out, so you don't have to make an appointment or any of those kinds of things. I really don't care so much for that model because it tends to rush things, and two, things tend to get missed, especially in sicker patients or older patients.
A lot of us, who go to the doctor, you have your appointment and he's on schedule. Hi, how you doing? Boop.
Right.
You go down the checklist, in 10 minutes he's out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or 15 if you're lucky.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
You're doing things
we take a lot more
differently.
time with folks, and I mean, I take the approach that if you set things up right to begin with, which is where we get a lot of our referrals from, is that you have a lot of people have several doctors that are involved in their care, but all the other doctors aren't necessarily talking to each other, and we see quite regularly where one doctor will change a medicine and not realize that the patient's also taking this one, which is either a duplicate or a competing medicine with something else. And so they come to us after they've kind of got this mishmash of stuff, and we help them straighten it out. And it's not an intentional, it's not an error per se from the other doctors. It's just the way the system is set up. It's not designed to really reward that.
So you try to pull that all together.
Yeah, we pull it all together
in one place and put it all in one bag and kind of sort things out for the patient.
And we have a lot of support staff that spend time getting records from other places so that we can review them to make sure that, well, this is what you heard, but that's not what the doctor wrote. So we read back to them a lot of times what the other doctor wrote in their notes, and then the picture becomes clearer for them so that this is what I heard and this is what they told me, but doesn't make sense. So we spend a lot of time talking to them and helping straighten that stuff out.
Dr. Nations, what I don't understand is, what I do understand is that medicine, for better or for worse, it's a business, and you've got a bottom line. So I know a lot of doctors was like, okay, I got to see so many patients in a day to break even to get going, but you don't necessarily do that, do you?
No. I mean, if you focus only on the dollar sign at the end of the day, I think there's a lot to be missed, and that's not why I went into medicine. I went into medicine to help people on the whole, and so as we've been growing, the services that I've been adding with nutrition is really, and one of the ones that we want to add is counseling therapy. So there's a lot of psychological issues that play a real big confounding role in your overall medical care, or your overall health care, and well-being. And a lot of people have never even been addressed about their depression. They're just given a medicine and then off you go, and then they come back and they just do refills. There's not much assessment there as far as like how can we make it better. I like to fine-tune things a lot. So
I've had several psychologists on the show and counselors, And almost to a person, one of the first things they prescribe is exercise
Yeah.
to people.
Yep.
And just the general feeling of wellness comes along with, I guess, nutrition and exercise and all the other things.
There's a lot, and that's really where a lot of our focus is on. It's not just, I'm not going to just give you a medicine and say this is going to make things better, because
See you for 10 minutes, write your script, fix you, and send you on your way.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is, unfortunately, that's how insurance reimburses things, is that it doesn't, they really don't pay the doctors or any of the providers to talk to a patient. They pay them to write the prescription because that makes it a complex visit. So we've kind of taken a completely different approach, and one of the ones that we're trying to get off the ground is what's called a direct care model, where it's more like a gym membership type thing, and there's been other bigger cities that have had these models work very, very well. Where the patients sign up and it's like a monthly fee, and you can come to the doctor as many times as you want, but it also includes other services like nutrition and physical therapy and those kinds of things.
So over time, you're going to turn into that direct care model.
Well, we still have Medicare and lots of other people who take commercial insurance where everything is covered, but a lot of folks who have their own individual plans, if they go see a primary doc, it's like a $20 visit, but if they go see a specialist, it's $50. So if we can incorporate some of those things into ours, it makes it a lot easier for them and lower cost overall.
Well, it's not just about medicine, is it? It's how you apply that to your patients.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes that have been on the horizon for a while with the Obama stuff. Some of them are good, some of them not so good, but overall, if it gets people thinking about it and talking about it and learning about their health, then I think that's a better thing.
Yeah, well, we appreciate what you're doing to try and cope with all the changes that,
It's been fun.
and the service that you're giving. And let us know when you're ready to open up that
Yes, sir.
that beach location.
Yep.
We're loving to go out there and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show. And we'll be right back after your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hi, this is David Lovett, and this is your Mad Hatter Minute. Today we're going to be talking about brake pads and brake systems on your car. The first question that I have to ask you is, how do you know when you need brakes? And typically there's only two ways that you know you're going to need brakes. One, if you're driving and you apply your brakes and you get a vibration, most typically in the steering wheel. The steering wheel start vibrating, you know you got a problem. If you feel it in your seat, feel vibration back in your seat, you know you got a problem. Second way to know that you might have a brake problem is noise. You hear a squealing noise when you're pressing your brakes. What that is that the hardened metal on the back end of the brake pad is actually making contact to the rotor. And it's your sign, it's your signal to say, hey, there's something wrong, time to get it into a shop. Now, in a standard brake job, there are actually 4 different components that you typically look at. Many other components on a brake system, but on a standard brake job, you typically look at your brake hoses, your brake calipers, your brake pads, and your brake rotors. All right, the hoses provide the fluid to the caliper. The caliper closes the pads back onto the rotor. The pad has friction material that makes contact to the rotor, and that's what makes your vehicle stop. Now, what I have here is your standard brake pad. Your brake pad has a friction material on the front, and it has backing material on the back. It also has this little tab right here that when you get low with the friction material, it's going to make a squealing noise. If you let this friction material get down into the squealer tab, it's going to squeal like a pig, and it's going to start damaging your rotor. Get your car fixed immediately. If it goes too deep into that rotor, you're buying new rotors. And soon, a $100 brake job turns into $200, $300 real fast. Don't play around with your brakes. This has been David Lovett, and this has been your Mad Hatter Minute.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Aaron Shores from Spine and Neuro Pain Center. Did I get that right?
Specialist.
Specialists. I'm so sorry. I get confused. There's too many words for me. But you are a specialist in spines and neuro pain, right?
Correct, absolutely.
And that's your area of expertise. And I can see that we've got a backbone, a little portion of skull, some hips, and apparently the leg bone is connected to the skull bone. But there's more to it than that, isn't there, Doctor?
There is, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that old song is certainly true. You know, there's a term that we refer to called the kinetic chain, which is basically a more scientific way of saying that the shin bone's connected to the knee bone. But all of these segments in the spine, whether it be the cervical spine, the thoracic spine, lumbar spine, or sacral spine, all interact. So if you have an abnormality in one, it often can translate to other parts of the spine as well. which can be a diagnostic challenge and take a little bit more time than some folks would like to get their pain better.
This is obviously a pretty complex mechanical arrangement that we have here.
Correct.
With our spine and our skulls and our hips and all the other things that interconnect, and of course the wiring of it all. There are things that can go wrong.
Absolutely.
Here. And that's what you do for a living, is help people with that. For instance, my wife recently got into a car accident where she was rear-ended, and she got whiplash. What is whiplash? To the layman, we have no idea what that even would look like.
Sure. Well, whiplash is actually a constellation of different symptoms, but many folks complain of neck pain after some sort of a traumatic event. Usually an auto accident is probably the most common I see in my practice. And it can be a constellation of either muscle pain, there's some joints in the neck, that can sometimes be a particular pain generator. The disc can sometimes do that, and then there's nerves and bone up there as well that can also be affected.
So it's not anything here that's really broken, but it may be something like soft tissue that's damaged from
Soft tissue and there's some joints in the neck. Now, if someone's first in an accident, they typically have an X-ray, or sometimes if it's bad enough, a CAT scan to make sure there are no fractures or large displacements of the spine itself. But assuming all that is normal and the patient is still having persistent neck pain, which is quite common, then yes, oftentimes whiplash can be a combination of both soft tissue as well as some joints in the neck called facet joints, which are these joints actually right here that form little hinge joints on the back of the spine. And these joints oftentimes are not diagnosed as a painful condition on an X-ray or MRI. In fact, patients after an accident can have a normal MRI or X-ray and still have quite significant pain from those joints. And a common scenario I see with that is somebody who has a normal X-ray after an accident. They go to physical therapy, do some of the conservative things or chiropractic care, and it feels good while they're getting adjusted, but before they get to the parking lot, it starts to come back again. And oftentimes we have to ask ourselves what else could be going on deep to the muscle. And in many instances, those joints can be a particular pain generator that require a particular avenue to diagnose and treat.
And it's amazing the distances and the tolerances here between these little joints. I mean, it really is quite complex. It's pretty amazing stuff. Now, what are some of the other things that could go wrong with your spine that you see often in your practice?
Sure. Well, a lot of times we see with folks who've had whiplash injuries, they also typically get headaches. Which is quite common. Many times because those joints and some of the muscles can refer pain up to the head and be a particular problem, as well as refer pain down here to the mid-back and either the lower back, because when some of these structures here in the spine that are deep to the muscle get irritated, that the muscles that run along the spine go from the head to the rear end, and whether they're irritated on one side or the other, that oftentimes can refer pain up and down the spine and lead to other diagnostic challenges in other areas.
Oh, so there are, I know before we started the interview, we were talking off camera about pain generators along your spine. What are some of those?
Sure. The muscles are very common cause. A lot of people will report knots or different muscle sorenesses after an injury. Those facet joints, or those little hinge joints that we referenced earlier, those joints also go from the base of the skull all the way to the buttock. And also can be quite a significant pain generator. The discs here are right here as well, which is what oftentimes I think patients always feel that their problem is based on an appearance of an X-ray or CT or MRI, and that sometimes is true and sometimes is not true. The bones and ligaments that hold these joints together, which are not shown on this model, sometimes can get stretched or damaged and become a significant generator. And the nerves themselves can sometimes be pinched or aggravated. So, and the diagnostic challenge sometimes, and the frustration for patients, is many of these structures you can see here relative to my thumb are not very big, and all of these structures refer pain in the same spot. So sometimes it is, unfortunately, a trial and error process to determine which of these structures are the pain generator and require treatment, because an X-ray or MRI cannot always tell us that.
All those small, intricate things you have to deal with to make us feel better. Dr. Shores, thank you so much for coming on the show and getting us smart on the workings of our spine.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We'll see you next week. And we'll be right back after these messages. To wrap up today's show, we have Kaylee Jackson in the studio today, who's going to play a song called Leah.